What's up, football fans? Welcome back to another video. It is time for my review of game week 32. It is currently game week 33, and you'll probably see game week 33's video out tomorrow. And although game week 33 is almost over, we're still going to give it a go. Just one thing to let you know that there were some games that were catch-up games during this time. So Newcastle United and Crystal Palace played 2 game weeks this week, and that ended up with each team having 32 games at the end of it. The weekend was kicked off with a game between Manchester City and Crystal Palace, and it looked like Crystal Palace could be in for one of the biggest shocks of the season. Of course, they were in pretty good form, but beating Man City would have been even bigger. They went into halftime 2-2 after City pulled 2 goals back from Palace's early 2 goals, and the second half was, as you guess, all City, and a 5-2 win ensued, with Kevin De Bruyne playing his last game against Palace and also having quite a good one. Might I add, a goal and assist for the man. The next game saw Everton take on Nottingham Forest, and it looked like Forest could steal a point. However, as I've been saying in these past few weeks, David Moyes' magic is back at play, and Abdoulaye Doucouré grabbed a goal in 4 minutes of added time, and that was the end of the game. A 1-0 victory to Everton, and all 3 points going to them. Next game saw Aston Villa taking on Southampton, and Southampton were chasing that point to be equal with Derby County's record and to get away from that of being the new club to only have 10 points. But Aston Villa were not going to be giving them anything, and although the first half ended 0-0, after the 72nd minute everything went to Aston Villa, and it was 3 goals, 3 quick goals, an Ollie Watkins goal, a Daniel Marlin goal and a John McGinn goal at the end of the game, and that was it for Aston Villa. All 3 points and even closer to that top 5 for Villa. The next game saw Brighton and Hove Albion taking on Leicester City. Leicester City, of course, trying to avoid relegation, and Brighton and Hove Albion really under fire. Both teams ended up 1-1 going into the break, thanks to goals from Mavididi for Leicester City and a João Pedro goal that was from the penalty spot. But in the second half, it was more of the same. Pedro grabbing a penalty in the 55th minute, scoring it, and Caleb Okoli scoring in the 74th minute for Leicester City. Both teams had to share the points, and that was all she wrote. The next game saw Arsenal taking on Brentford in a game that Arsenal would have wanted to win because they needed the 3 points since Liverpool would be playing the next day. The first half ended goalless, and then in the second half, Thomas Partey grabbed one in the 61st minute, and it seemed like Arsenal could be going away with the points, but 13 minutes later, Johan Wissa came to the party, grabbed the equaliser for Brentford, and the game ended at a 1-1 draw. Arsenal only going home with 1 point, and this would surely be another dent in their title chase. The next game saw Wolverhampton, who are trying to avoid relegation, take on Tottenham Hotspurs, who are also in a bad position themselves. However, the game started well for Wolverhampton with a goal in the 2nd minute from Ryan Aït-Nouri, an own goal from Jed Spence in the 38th minute, and they took that into halftime and went over with a 2-0 lead. The second half started, and as much as Wolves were trying to control the game, Tottenham Hotspur were also trying to come back into it as Ange also needed the points. Matej Stel grabbed a goal in the 59th minute, and 5 minutes later, Jürgen Strand Larsen, who has been scoring a lot for Wolverhampton lately, grabbed a goal, and that was the 3rd one to make it 3-1, and he was assisted by Ryan Aït-Nouri, the scorer of the first goal. In the 85th minute, Richarlison grabbed a goal, and he thought that they were bringing Tottenham closer into the game as it made the score 3-2. However, a minute later, Matheus Cunha grabbed a goal, and it was 4-2 to Wolverhampton, and that was the score at the end of the game, and Wolverhampton took a much-needed 3 points. The next game saw Chelsea take on Ipswich Town, and Ipswich Town, who are very much on the verge of relegation, were trying their best to do the double over Chelsea after beating them 2-0 earlier in the season. Chelsea, of course, made this harder for them, but the game started with Julian Enciso grabbing a goal, assisted by Ben Johnson, and at the 31st minute, Ben Johnson grabbed a goal, assisted by Julio Enciso. They went into the half with a 2-0 lead, and that seemed like it could have been quite enough for them. As the second half started, though, Chelsea came right back into it with a 46th minute own goal by Axel Tuanzebe. The former United player's own goal had spurred Chelsea on, and it led to a 79th minute goal by Jadon Sancho, assisted by Cole Palmer, who had his first goal contribution in quite a long time. Both sides were battling each other, and unfortunately, none of them could pick up the 3 points. A dent towards Ipswich Town, who really needed to get the points to push themselves away from relegation since Wolverhampton picked up the points. and then Chelsea also needed the points to keep themselves in that top 5 region. The next game saw Liverpool taking on West Ham United, and this was perfect for Liverpool as they were in a position that they knew was quite good for them since Arsenal had picked up only 1 point the day before. However, they came into this game and it was a tough battle. They were taking on West Ham, and West Ham were really giving it their all against them too. But then in the 18th minute, Luis Diaz grabbed a goal assisted by Mohamed Salah, his first goal contribution in a while as well. As much as both sides were trying to get more from it, nothing else came from it in terms of goals or assists, and this ended the first half at 1-0. The 86th minute saw West Ham grab a goal back thanks to an own goal by Andrew Robertson that started through a Virgil van Dijk fault. But not only 3 minutes later, Virgil van Dijk came back and grabbed a goal for himself thanks to Alexis McAllister across. And that was it from the corner. And Liverpool won the game 2-1, 3 points, and it was another 3 points closer to the title. The next game saw Manchester United take on Newcastle United, and it was a game where Newcastle wanted the points so that they could get closer to that top 5 and maybe even push into the top 3. United were just looking for some points so that they could step further away from the relegation zone, although relegation is quite unlikely at this point. This game started as any Newcastle and Manchester United contest was, where both sides were trying to go for it, but in the 24th minute, Newcastle broke the deadlock with a Sandro Tonali goal that was assisted by Alexander Isak. It was an equaliser afterwards from Manchester United when Garnacho scored a goal where he was assisted by Diogo Dalot. That was all for the first half as it was 1-1, and when the players came back from the break, Newcastle United struck immediately with Harvey Barnes grabbing a goal in the 49th minute, assisted by Jacob Murphy. He scored his second in the 64th minute, and that was followed up in the 77th minute by a Bruno Guimaraes goal. That sealed the deal for Newcastle and all 3 points to push them closer into their bid for Champions League football next season, as they won the game 4-1 against Manchester United, whose miseries continued. Another thing about this game was United had a 2-2 draw earlier in the week against Lyon, where Andre Onana had 2 blunders, and that meant that he was dropped for this game, and altaafpillay was in goal, but unfortunately poor defence as well as his goalkeeping led to a 4-1 loss. The only game of Monday night saw Bournemouth taking on Fulham, and Bournemouth, who came into this game with a bad run of form, really needed the 3 points. Fulham also sort of needed 3 points for their mid-table sort of madness over there. But this game would evidently end up with Bournemouth getting the win. Within the first minute, an Antoine Semenyo goal was enough for them to seal the game, and that was all she wrote. And this was the game that led to a double game week for 2 teams, Newcastle taking on Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace were looking to bounce back from the 5 goals they conceded against Man City on Saturday, and Newcastle wanted to add to their tally after a 4-1 victory over Manchester United. It was the worst possible start for Crystal Palace as they conceded a goal in the 14th minute when Jacob Murphy scored, being assisted by Kieran Trippier. And then in the 38th minute, it got worse for them as an own goal by Mark Gahey led to a 2-0 lead for Newcastle. And 2 goals in the added time of the first half led to a 4-0 lead going into the break for Newcastle United, courtesy of goals by Harvey Barnes and Fabian Schär. The second half saw a 58th minute goal by Alexander Isak, assisted by Joelinton, basically close off the game, and Newcastle United went on to win this game 5-0. That was 9 goals in their last 2 games, and for Crystal Palace, they conceded 10 goals in their last 2 games. The league table is as follows. In 20th position, Southampton on 10 points and already relegated. Leicester City are on 18 points. Ipswich Town on 21 points. In 18th place, in 17th place, West Ham and Wolves are tied. Wolves in 16th are both on 35 points. Tottenham are in 15th on 37 points. In 14th place, Manchester United are tied with Everton in 13th place on 38 points. 12th place, Crystal Palace are tied with Brentford on 11th, both on 43 points. Brighton, Fulham and Bournemouth are tied. Bournemouth 8th, Fulham 9th and Brighton in 10th on 48. In 7th place, Villa are tied with Chelsea in 6th on 54 points. Man City are on 55 points in 5th, 57 points for Nottingham Forest in 4th. Newcastle move up to 3rd on 59 points. Arsenal on 63 in 2nd. And Liverpool close to the title on 76 points in 1st place. Top sister is Mohamed Salah on 18 with Jacob Murphy closest to him on 11. Top scorer on 27 is Mo Salah with Haaland and Isak tied on 21. That's it for the game week review. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one for Game Week 33 tomorrow. Thank you.